I never thought a text could make my hands shake like this. The message was just glowing on my phone, burning right into my brain. "You won't be joining us on the family cruise. My wife would prefer it to be just family." Those words were from my son, my only kid, the same one I'd just given a fully paid-for house to a few months back. The house I lost sleep over getting for him, the one I poured my life savings into, telling myself it was a gift from the heart, a fresh start for his family. And now I wasn't family enough to go on their vacation. I stared at those cold words and my chest got tight. I could hear blood pounding in my ears. My hands felt like ice as I slowly typed back. "Okay." That's all I said. That one word held all the hurt, the betrayal, everything. But even as I hit send, my mind was screaming. "So I'm good enough to buy your house, but not good enough to eat at your table. Not good enough to get on your damn cruise ship." My heart was hammering like a drum. I could barely breathe, but my face stayed perfectly still, calm, almost like I wasn't there. The part of me that always just took it, that always made excuses for their little cruelties, it died right then and there. Then the phone buzzed again. It was Ashley, my daughter-in-law. Polite, but ice cold. "I hope you understand, it's just simpler for everyone this way." Simpler. Yeah, right. It's simpler, Ashley. It's a lot simpler now that you've got the house. Simpler now that you think your future is all set. I put the phone down, my hand still shaking a little, but I wasn't crying. Not anymore. Because right at that moment, something new woke up in me. The part that had been a doormat for way too long. The part that wasn't getting humiliated again. They thought I'd just roll over and accept this. They were dead wrong. The silence in my house got so loud after that. I sat in my own kitchen, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. The morning sun was creeping across the floor, touching the old chairs, the countertops. I picked out the curtains I sewed with my own 2 hands. All of it for them, for Brandon and Ashley, for the family I thought I had. Now the house just felt like a museum of my mistakes. On the walls were pictures from all the vacations I'd paid for. Disney when Brandon was a kid. Cancun when Ashley first came into the picture. The Christmas cabin trip that I footed the entire bill for. I always told myself it was my gift to them. Always giving. Always finding a reason for why they'd gone quiet. I thought about the housewarming party last spring. The house I bought them. Paid in full. No mortgage. 0 debt. A clean slate for their marriage. Ashley had grabbed my hands that day, her eyes all shiny with tears. "Oh, Margaret, you didn't have to do this. We're so grateful. You'll always have a room here. You know that." And I believed her. Of course I did. That's what moms do. I remembered the nights I spent up late painting their master bedroom myself because they were too busy with work, picking that soft lavender color because Ashley said it was calming. I ordered all their furniture and put it together alone in my garage. Every curtain rod, every floor lamp, every single throw blanket, I chose it all so carefully with so much love. It was just easier then to keep busy, to pretend that they weren't pulling away, that it was just stress or work or just them being young. But it wasn't. The truth was just sitting on my chest, heavy as a rock. For so long I'd made sure I was useful to them, the family fixer, the bank, the quiet helper. They just stopped seeing me as a person. I was just a walking wallet. And once the wallet was empty, they didn't need me anymore. The next morning, the silence was just too much. So I called Patricia. She was here in under an hour, just like always. No questions asked, no hesitation. That's how it is with old friends. They know when you don't need to talk right away. She walked right in and looked straight at my face. She knew something was wrong before I even said a word. "Tell me," she said real soft. She put her purse on the kitchen table. I just slid my phone over so she could read the text. I saw her jaw tighten up as she read it. But she didn't say anything at first. She just slowly shook her head like she wasn't even surprised. Then she finally spoke. "They've been planning this, Meg." Her words hit me right in the gut. My voice was just a whisper. "I thought maybe it was just Ashley, that she got in his head. But Brandon, he's not like this." Patricia's lips got real thin. She reached over and put her hand on mine. It was steady and firm. "Meg, you raised a good boy, but you also raised a boy who never had to work for anything. You were always there to clean up his messes, and Ashley, she saw that. She saw an opportunity. You bent over backwards for them, and now they're treating you like a doormat." Her words hurt because I knew she was right. I'd spent years making everything easy for Brandon, canceling my own trips just to watch their dog, emptying my savings to pay off the rest of their student loans, running over every time Ashley said she needed help organizing. I was always useful, always there. "You have to protect yourself now," Patricia said. Her voice was low and serious. "Before they try to take anything else." I just looked at her, totally confused. "Take more. They've already taken it all." Patricia's eyes got sharp. Have you checked your bank accounts? Are you sure your name is still on the house? What about your investments, Margaret? You're still just trusting them." A tight knot started forming in my stomach. My heart started beating faster. I hadn't even thought to check. Why would I? They're my family. I let Ashley handle most of the online bills. I admitted barely making a sound. She said it was just easier for taxes. Patricia let out a long breath and leaned back. "Meg, you need to check everything, today, and if anything looks weird, we're going straight to a lawyer." I swallowed hard. My hands started to shake, but this time it wasn't from being scared. It was from realizing what was happening. From that cold feeling when you know your trust was used against you. I wasn't some sweet, helpless old lady. I was just too damn trusting, and they were banking on that to keep me quiet, to make me do what they wanted, to keep me out of sight. But as Patricia just looked at me waiting, I felt something inside me change. It was like something inside me finally got hard. I sat up straight and my voice was steady for the first time in days. "Okay, we start today." Patricia nodded. "Good, because you're not finished and they have no idea what's about to hit them." I couldn't sleep at all that night. Every time I closed my eyes, all I saw was that message, that stupid cold text. I kept seeing Ashley's fake little smile and the way Brandon would just nod without really listening. And Patricia's voice was louder than the silence in the house. "You've got to protect yourself now." At 2:17 a.m., I finally gave up on sleep. My heart was pounding in my ears as I reached for my laptop. For years, I'd let Ashley handle so many of our online accounts. "It's just easier, Margaret. You shouldn't have to worry about all this confusing stuff now that you're retired," she'd always say in that sweet, syrupy voice. And I wanted to believe she was just being helpful. I wanted to believe she actually cared. But now my fingers hovered over the login screen with a whole new feeling. I typed in my info, my hands stiff with nerves. The familiar dashboard loaded. Everything looked normal at first, but that was the problem. It looked normal because I'd never had a reason to look closer. Slowly, carefully, I started digging through my account histories, by checking my savings, and my retirement investments. Most of it was what I expected: utilities, groceries, donations, all the normal expenses. But the further back I scrolled, the more my stomach turned. I saw multiple transfers, all small enough to fly under the radar. Each one was labeled with things like home expenses, property maintenance, or emergency repairs. But I hadn't okayed any emergency repairs, and when I looked at where the money went, the cards weren't in my name. They were under a secondary user. I clicked on it, and her name popped up. Ashley. My stomach hit the floor. I just stared at the screen, completely frozen. She had quietly linked her card to my accounts, smooth as anything, for months, maybe longer, just skimming. Bleeding me dry little by little. This wasn't just about leaving me out of the cruise. This wasn't some petty family squabble. This was theft. And Brandon, was he really so blind he couldn't see it? Or did he know and just didn't care as long as the money kept coming in? A wave of heat washed over me, but it wasn't rage, not yet. It was something colder, much sharper. I closed the laptop slowly and just sat there. The dim kitchen light hit the family photos still hanging on the walls. Those photos looked different now. They looked like evidence of some big con I had just walked right into. They never loved me. They only loved what I could give them. My throat burned, but I couldn't cry. Instead, I just whispered into the quiet room. "You gambled with my kindness, Ashley. You gambled with my trust." I'd always told myself that being quiet doesn't make you weak. But tonight, I finally realized silence can be sharp too. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I would not be that fool ever again. By morning, I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't panicking, not a bit. The fog was gone, and all that was left was a cold, hard focus. I called my financial advisor and pretended it was just a routine check-in. I didn't want to raise any red flags, not yet, not until I knew exactly how bad it was. "Of course, Mrs. Mitchell," Mr. Thompson said, sounding friendly. "He's been my guy for years. What can I help you with today?" "My son and daughter-in-law have been helping me with some of the household expenses," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "But I just want to make sure everything is still set up the way we originally planned." He pulled up my files and I waited, trying to keep my breathing steady even though my hands were shaking under the desk. Well, everything looks pretty stable, but I do see some recent activity." His voice changed just a little bit. "It looks like several transfers have been set up, mostly for ongoing home renovations." I swallowed hard. "Renovations?" "Yeah, pretty big ones. A few large payments for design upgrades and contractor prepayments." I squeezed the phone tighter. "So who okayed these transfers?" He paused for a second. "Well, Mrs. Mitchell, technically you did. At least your authorized representative account did." My stomach dropped. Which representative? For the first time, he hesitated. It looks like your secondary authorized user. Mrs. Ashley Mitchell made these payments. She has full access because of the power of attorney you signed last spring. I closed my eyes. I remembered that meeting. Ashley had pushed me to sign the new paperwork, saying it would make things easier in an emergency. She even brought the notary herself, smiling the whole time. Of course she did. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," I said, keeping my voice flat. "Could you please flag any more transactions for my review before they go through? I've decided to be more involved from now on." He agreed right away. When I hung up, I just sat in the silence. There was no question anymore. Ashley wasn't helping. She was getting herself set up for when she and Brandon could quietly drain every penny I have, using that house as their trophy. My retirement fund is not their inheritance, not yet, but they were already spending it like it was. I looked at the locket from my late husband on the windowsill, the one from our 30th anniversary. He would have seen right through this. He always told me to be careful, but I wanted to believe in family so bad. For years I made myself smaller just to keep the peace. But love without respect, that's a prison, and I just found the key. I looked over at the empty shelf where I used to keep a framed photo from Brandon and Ashley's housewarming. I took it down 2 nights ago. The shelf looked better, empty, lighter, and for the first time so did I. They bet on me staying quiet. They were going to regret that. Later that afternoon, I walked to the park. I needed air. I needed to be somewhere not built by my sacrifices, not filled with furniture I paid for or haunted by pictures of people who only saw me as an AD. The old oak tree was still there where my husband used to sit every Sunday afternoon, reading the paper while I fed the ducks. It was his favorite place. He called it our little corner of calm. I sat on the bench under its branches. The warm breeze felt like it was lifting some of the weight I'd been carrying around for so long. I didn't say a word, just breathed, just listened. Then I whispered to him like he was sitting right there beside me. "You would have seen it, Robert. You would have warned me." My fingers traced the edge of the old locket I still wore. My thumb brushed over the little date engraved on it. The day we paid off our first house. The day we thought we were building a future for our family. Back when Brandon was still just our sweet little boy wanting to build tree houses, not schemes. I bit my lip hard to stop it from trembling. I didn't want to cry, not anymore. I was all out of tears. The next morning, I was at my lawyer's office before they even unlocked the doors. Mr. Collins had been my lawyer for years. He did my estate planning, the first house purchase for Brandon and Ashley. Even the papers Ashley made me sign when she wanted to help with the bills. Back then, I trusted her. I trusted them all. Not anymore. He smiled at me, but I could see the worry in his eyes. "Margaret, I wasn't expecting you so early. Is everything okay?" I sat down across from him and just put my hands in my lap. My voice was steady, totally flat. "I need to take back the house." He blinked a little, surprised. "You mean the house you put in Brandon and Ashley's names?" I nodded. "That's the one. I want it reversed. I want all my assets frozen, all powers of attorney canceled, and a record of every single thing." He paused for a second, not because he disagreed, but because he knew what this meant. "Margaret, this is going to cause some trouble." "They've already caused trouble," I shot back. "I was just too blind to see it." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, we'll get started. And one more thing," I said, my voice even lower now. "I want to see every single thing they've done with my accounts. Everything. Every withdrawal. Every purchase. Everything Ashley signed off on." A look of approval flashed across his face. "We'll need proof if this thing gets bigger." "Oh, it's going to get bigger," I said calmly. "Let's not kid ourselves." He jotted down a few notes before looking up. "You might want to think about hiring a private investigator." I raised an eyebrow. "You really think it's that serious?" Colin's voice got softer, but it was firm. "Ashley isn't just trying to play you. She's setting herself up to take control for good. Margaret, you have a lot of money. If she's already messing with your accounts, she's probably building a paper trail to back up her story later. We need our own trail, something they can't deny." The thought made my stomach turn, but not with fear. I was ready. "Do it," I told him. "Hire whoever you trust." He nodded. "We'll handle the legal stuff. The investigator can do the rest." And just like that, things started moving. When I left his office, I felt a weight lift, not because the problem was fixed, not even close, but for the first time, I wasn't just reacting. I wasn't waiting for them to stab me in the back again. I was taking action. Getting into my car, I let a small, bitter smile cross my face. They wanted me to be quiet, and they were going to get it. But it was going to be my kind of quiet, the kind that's silent right before it strikes. The very next morning, an envelope was pushed under my door. I saw it right away when I walked into the kitchen. A plain white envelope, the same kind Ashley always used for papers she prepared to help me. On top of it was a sticky note. in her handwriting, which hurt to see. "Just sign when you're ready, Mom. It'll make things easier while we're gone." I just stood there. They were already gone, off on their cruise, floating on some blue ocean, drinking cocktails, laughing, while back here their little game was still going on. My hands were shaking a bit as I opened it and unfolded the papers inside. They were all typed up, nice and neat-looking, official. At first, they just looked like normal, updated forms, just routine stuff. Ashley was always good at making control look like she was just helping out. But the more I read, the sick feeling in my stomach got worse, hidden in the fine print. Tucked away under all that fancy legal talk about streamlining the estate was a full power of attorney, permanent. It would have given Ashley total control over my money, my house, my medical care, my entire life. I swear my heart stopped. The weight of it just crushed me. They weren't just getting their ducks in a row, they were ready to take it all. Not down the line, right now. I just stood there clutching those papers, my hands shaking a little. But it wasn't fear. It was a cold, hard anger. I finally realized just how far they'd go. Ashley didn't want to wait for me to die naturally. She wanted to take over while I was still breathing, to just erase me all polite and legal so she wouldn't have to get her own hands dirty. And Brandon, my own son. Was he really that blind, or was he just pretending not to see what his wife was up to? Either way, the answer was just as gut-wrenching. They weren't family anymore. They were just wolves in sheep's clothing. I calmly slid the unsigned papers back into the envelope and sealed it. I put it back on the counter like it was just junk mail. Let them think I was oblivious. Let them think I was still the same naive old woman. I was the one who trusted them completely, signing whatever they put in front of me, just smiling and saying, "Thank you." But that woman doesn't live here anymore. My private investigator was on his way. My lawyer was already filing to freeze every single joint account. And now with this, I had even more proof. I had their plan in writing. I sat at the kitchen table, the sun streaming in. It felt warm on my face. They thought they were running the show, but they forgot one thing: quiet doesn't mean weak. The second I put those papers back in the envelope, something just clicked. It's weird, I was completely calm, not shaken, not even angry really. I was just focused, crystal clear. They figured they could make their move while they were out of town, that I'd just sit here helpless and confused by all the legal mumbo-jumbo, that I'd be grateful to help them write me out of my own life. They seriously underestimated me. By noon, I was walking back into Collins's office. He didn't greet me with that worried look this time. He just nodded. He could see on my face that I meant business. They tried to pull this while they're gone. I slid the envelope across his desk. He opened it and unfolded the papers. His brow furrowed as he read. "Wow, they're getting bold," he finally said. "This isn't just shady, it's predatory. If you'd signed this, Margaret, they could have legally sold your house, cleaned out your bank accounts, and even stick you in any nursing home they picked out." He looked up, probably expecting me to be in a total panic. Instead, I just stared right back at him. "Then we need to move faster." He cracked a smile. I could see a flash of respect in his eyes. "We've already got most of the paperwork ready to go. I've already started the filing to get the house back in your name only. The account freezes are in motion. The PI is already digging into their finances. But now that I've seen this," he motioned to the power of attorney papers, "we're going to hit back even harder." I leaned forward. "Lock it all down. Everything. No one touches my money but me. Not one more dollar moves without my signature." He nodded. "We're also drawing up a protective order for your estate. If they try to legally force your hand in any way from now on, we'll have a clear timeline of all their tricks to use against them." I leaned back and took a deep breath. My hands finally stopped shaking. My shoulders weren't all knotted up anymore. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I wasn't just reacting to them. I was building a wall they wouldn't even know was there until they smacked right into it. When I got home that afternoon, the house just felt different. Not because the house had changed, but because I had. I walked through the rooms, seeing everything in a new light. These walls didn't feel like a warm family home anymore. They were just a reminder of what I gave them and how entitled they were. I stopped at that empty shelf again, right where the housewarming picture used to be. That happy fake picture. I opened the drawer and pulled it out one last time. Staring at their smiling faces, I whispered to the picture frame, "You thought I was just here to serve you." My thumb hovered over Brandon's face. "You thought I'd just keep saying yes." Then I flipped the photo over and shoved it way back in the drawer. Let it sit there in the dark. 2 days later, my phone rang. I knew the number right away. It was my private investigator. I picked up on the first ring. "Mrs. Mitchell?" His voice was calm, but I could tell he had something big. "You're going to want to see this." I shut the curtains without even thinking about it. "Tell me." He got right to the point. Your daughter-in-law is trying to take out a second mortgage on the house. She's already started the paperwork with a private lender. She filed the papers last week. I just stood there, frozen. They were already trying to borrow money against the house I gave them, like it was all theirs to play with without a single worry. Did they say how this got the house? I asked. They just called it a simple family transfer, he said. No mention of the shady power of attorney stuff or the money they took from your accounts. In fact, the lender was really impressed with their so-called generous family backing. I had to bite my cheek just to keep from shaking. They weren't just taking my money now. They were gambling with it, piling up debt on top of my generosity. Debts I never approved, risks I never agreed to take. If I hadn't started looking into this when I did, I could have come home one day to find the house sold, my savings gone, my accounts empty, and they would have gotten away with all of it. Do they have any idea you know about this? I asked. No, ma'am. As far as they're concerned, you're still just sitting at home. I breathed out slowly. Good. Let's keep it that way. Then we hung up. I sat there in my quiet living room for a while. The only sound was the fridge humming. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was them actively stealing from me. But strangely, I wasn't panicked or angry. I just felt cold and focused. They got sloppy because they never thought I'd question anything they did. They thought I was still the same mom who'd do anything to avoid a fight. They just didn't get one simple thing yet. When someone like me finally says no, it's already too late for them. I stood up, straightened my shirt, and looked out the window at the house I bought for them. And in that quiet moment, I smiled. You made a bad bet with my gift, Ashley. So now I'm going to gamble with your future. That night, I didn't turn on any lights. I just sat by the window in the dark, totally silent. I watched the streetlights make long shadows on the empty sidewalk. The world outside was just moving along, with no idea about the storm that was brewing inside my house. For the first time in a while, I wasn't scared. I wasn't confused. I was planning. They thought I'd just fall apart after they betrayed me. They thought their fake smiles and their whole "we're just helping you mom" act had left me with nothing. But the truth was simple. Their whole little scheme was built on my trust. And now I was done playing along. I watched a neighbor pull into their driveway. Their headlights lit up my living room for a second. The light passed over the empty spot on the mantel where the family picture used to be. The empty shelf looked cleaner now. Honest, I whispered. Really just to myself. They gambled with what I gave them. Now I'm gambling with their future. It felt good to finally say it. I'd spent years just putting up with things, telling myself that love meant you had to tolerate anything, that being needed was the same as being cared about. But it's not. They loved my money and how useful I was, that I'd just hand over whatever they wanted, no questions asked. But the second they didn't need me, the mother, the actual person, they just smiled and tossed me aside. And now they're so far out on a limb, I don't even have to push. I just have to stop holding it up for them. I closed my eyes and I could see Ashley's face. That polite, fake concern, the sweet voice she put on whenever she wanted something. You're like a second mother to me. Margaret. It was all lies. Nobody tries to erase their own mother. Nobody hides power of attorney papers under a stack of junk mail unless they've been planning this for a long, long time. I opened my eyes and leaned back, and feeling myself sit up straighter. They were counting on me to be quiet, but my silence was my weapon now. I looked out the window for a little while longer. The night air felt cool on the glass. It was strange. After everything, I didn't feel broken. I felt strong. The next few days went by like clockwork. No emotion, no pausing. Just one careful step after another. Every morning I sat in Collins's office with him on one side and the PI on the other. We just worked, quietly like a machine. We took apart every single transaction. Every withdrawal was traced. Every single account Ashley got into was documented perfectly. As the files piled up, you'd think I'd feel sick, but I didn't. The more we found, the clearer it all was. Ashley hadn't just linked her credit card to my accounts. She used my retirement fund to pay off her own cards. She'd been secretly moving money into investment accounts that were under her maiden name. She'd even used my name to get pre-approved for the second mortgage they were planning to take out on the house I gave them. All of it while smiling at me at the dinner table. All of it while calling me Mom. Collins pushed another printed statement over to me. This pattern of lying is going to speak for itself in court, if it comes to that, the private investigator said. And the timing is just too perfect. The cruise was a great cover while these last documents got slipped under your door. She wanted you to have no legal power left before you realized what they were about to do. I just nodded. I let the truth sink in, a weight that was finally off my shoulders. It's just greed pretending to be concern, I said softly. They didn't want me gone. They just wanted to be in charge. Collins looked right at me. And they almost got it, Margaret. All of it. Most people just sign this stuff without reading the details. But I didn't sign, I said. My voice was cold and hard. No, you didn't, Collins agreed. And now they've left a paper trail that's going to bury them. We worked late that night. It was dark by the time I left his office, but I wasn't tired. I wasn't scared anymore. I felt something else growing inside me. I was finally moving forward. When I got home, I looked at the house in a whole new way. Those drapes Ashley picked out, the fancy lights I paid for, the marble counters she just had to have last year, the soft close cabinets she needed because she said they made the house feel more classy. Every single piece of it was mine again. They bet everything on me being too old and too quiet to fight back, too weak, too desperate for any little bit of love they threw my way. They forgot who paid for this place. I ran my hand over the kitchen counter and whispered, "You tried to get rid of me while I was still here. Now I'm getting rid of you while you're still faking that smile." Tomorrow, all the paperwork would be filed. The house would be back in my name. The accounts would be frozen. And by the time their cruise ship docked, the life they thought they had would be gone. And they'd have no idea until they tried to come home. The papers were right there in front of me. Everything was ready. The house transfer, the frozen assets, and cutting off Ashley from all my money. Every little trick they'd set up for themselves was now shut down. Everything they thought was theirs was ripped right out from under them. And I didn't have to say a single word to them. Colin stood at the other end of the big table. The notary was ready with her pen, just waiting. All I had to do was sign. My hand paused over the paper for a second. I wasn't having second thoughts, not at all. It was just the weight of it all. This wasn't just some legal form. This was years of me giving everything, loving them no matter what, and suffering in silence. Now it was all being undone with a pen. The notary looked up at me. She was quiet but waiting. My hand was steady when I finally signed my name, one page. Then the next and the next. With every signature, I felt a little bit lighter. When the last paper was signed, Collins gathered up the pages. He looked calm, but I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. "It's done, Margaret," he said. "Everything's been reversed. The house is officially yours again. We've canceled every permission they had to your money. They can't touch a thing now. Not your bank accounts, not the house, not even the bills." I just nodded. My voice was steady. "And what if they try to fight it?" Collins's eyes got sharp. "We have all the proof we need. The investigators report the records of all the money they took. That power of attorney they tricked you with, the one they left when they were out of town. If they fight this, they'll just be telling everyone what they did." I let out a long, slow breath. The fear was finally gone. It was over. For the first time in forever, my future was all mine again. I just stood on the courthouse steps, taking it all in. Their cruise ship was set to dock in 4 days. Just 4 days till they got back, thinking they were coming home to the little world they controlled. They had no idea the locks were already changed. No clue the house they were about to drown in debt was already sold. Sold legally and for good while they were off floating on a boat, thinking they'd already won. The sale was finalized just a few hours before I signed the reversal papers. A clean buyer, an all-cash offer, and a quick closing. The money was already tucked away in a new account, one they couldn't touch when they didn't even know was real. I actually smiled when the wind hit my face. They really thought I was helpless. They thought me being quiet meant I'd given up. But being quiet can be a powerful move. The morning they got back, I was already there. I parked a block down, just standing across the street when their car pulled up. They were home from their big fancy cruise, tanned and relaxed, and totally clueless. Ashley got out first, sunglasses on her head, barking at Brandon to get their bags out of the trunk. I could already hear her going on about needing to schedule that final appointment for the second mortgage. Brandon barely even looked up. He was just scrolling on his phone like he always does. Not really there, but doing what he was told. Then they both just froze. There were 2 cars in the driveway and moving vans. A young couple was standing by the front door just chatting and laughing with a realtor. I started walking across the street real slow. I took my time. Brandon saw me first. "Mom." His voice was all shaky like he was confused, but there was something else too. Something creeping into his eyes. Fear. Ashley's eyes narrowed. "What's going on? Who are these people?" The young couple just gave a polite smile and walked inside with the realtor. The door closed. It was their door now. I finally said something. "You won't have to worry about managing things for me anymore." Ashley's face turned beet red in a second. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" Brandon's voice cracked. "Mom, what's happening? Why are there people in our house?" I just let them squirm in the silence. I watched the panic start to hit them. "Not your house," I said, my voice totally calm. Not anymore. Ashley lunged toward me, her voice getting that high-pitched screech it always does when she's losing control. You can't do this. We're in the middle of refinancing. We have contracts. I cut her right off, pulling a thick folder out of my bag. These are the only contracts that matter now. I handed the folder to Brandon. His hands were shaking as he opened it. Flipping through the papers, all the color drained from his face as he read page after page. The reversal, the sale documents. The investigators report copies of all of Ashley's illegal money transfers. Proof of everything. Ashley snatched the papers right out of his hands, her eyes flying across the pages. She started breathing fast. You could see the gears turning in her head, looking for a loophole for anything she could twist. This will never hold up, she snapped. We were managing it all for you. You'll be sorry when you calm down. We were just trying to help. I kept my voice level. Help? You mean draining my accounts when I wasn't looking? Gambling with debt on a house you didn't even own anymore? Forging legal documents and hoping I'd be dumb enough to sign while you were halfway across the ocean? Ashley's jaw was clenched shut. Brandon finally spoke. His voice was cracking. Mom, we didn't mean... I just held up my hand. Stop. You didn't mean to get caught. They both just stood there, and for the first time I could see it all over their faces. It wasn't love. It wasn't regret. It was just fear. The kind of fear you get when you realize the person you underestimated has been watching you, waiting. I let them sweat in the silence. Then for the first time in months, I actually smiled. A real one. You gambled with my trust, I said, and you lost. Ashley's face twisted up and it was ugly. For a second, she looked like a trapped animal ready to lash out, but she knew the trap had already snapped shut. You can't just take everything from us, she screamed. We built this life. You don't get to destroy it over a few misunderstandings. Brandon was barely breathing. He was gripping that folder so tight like he thought it would just disappear. I just stood there calm. You didn't build this life, I said quietly. You took it. A little piece here, a little piece there, all with a smile. And you really thought I'd just let you? Ashley's voice was starting to crack. We have rights. We're family. You can't just cut us off like this. I could feel every single year of this weighing down on me. All those times I kept my mouth shut to keep the peace. All the crap I swallowed to be the good mother, the guilt. All the giving, all the believing. But not anymore. Not today. I reached into my bag and pulled out a second folder. It was thinner than the first one, but it felt a lot heavier. I held it up between us. If you want to take this to court, I said calmly. This is what you're up against. I handed it to her. She snatched it out of my hand like a starving dog. Inside was everything from the investigator and Collins, copies of every single withdrawal, every transfer. Every fake document Ashley filed in my name, every paper she slid under my door with that fake smile on her face. Fraud, financial abuse, coercion, forgery. It was all there. Ashley started flipping through the pages faster and faster. She was breathing hard and all the color drained from her face as she finally started to get it. I lowered my voice, but my words hit harder. If you even think about suing me, Ashley, this all goes public. Every single transaction, every fake signature, every time you tried to steal from your own mother-in-law. I let that sink in. Brandon whispered so low I could barely hear him. Ashley, what did you do? She whipped her head around to face him. Her voice cracked. Don't you dare blame me for this, Brandon. You didn't seem to mind when all that money was rolling in. But Brandon just stood there, his eyes wide. His shoulders slumped like the weight of it all was finally crushing him. I just watched them. Their perfect little marriage, their little team up against me, it was falling apart right in front of my eyes. I took a deep breath. It was time to say the last thing. I was your mother, Brandon, and you made me a target. His lips started to tremble. He looked down. For just a second, I saw the little boy he used to be, the one who'd ask me to fix his toy truck. The one who'd run to me with scraped knees. But that boy was long gone and I was done being sad about it. This isn't revenge, I went on. My voice got a little softer. It's protection. For the first time in years, I'm finally protecting myself. Ashley threw the folder on the ground, glaring at me. You think you won, you're going to end up all alone. I just smiled again. Calm, steady, alone, I whispered. It's better than being used. Then I turned my back and walked off. I never looked back once. I drove home real slow. The engine just hummed quietly as I made my way through the empty streets, and I could feel my breathing finally evening out. The sun was low when I pulled into my small apartment complex. It wasn't big. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine. All mine. The second I locked my door, I started picturing the scene back at that house. My old house now, someone else's with the movers and the new couple settling in, all happy in the place Brandon and Ashley thought was theirs forever. And I pictured them standing on that driveway surrounded by the mess they'd made of their plans. Their house gone, their schemes blown up, their whole little fantasy shattered. My phone buzzed on the counter. It was a text from Brandon. "Mom, please, can we talk? This isn't what I wanted. Please." I just stared at the words. They felt cold and empty. He hadn't even called me mom to my face in months, but now that he had nothing, he suddenly remembered who I was. I didn't answer. A second text came a few minutes later. "I'm sorry. Ashley got carried away. She pushed me. You know how she is. I never wanted to hurt you." I could almost hear his whiny voice in those words. Desperate, grasping at straws, trying to rewrite the past, now that there was nothing left to take. My thumb hovered over the screen, but I didn't type back a single word because I'd finally learned. You only miss me now that I've said no. I put the phone face down on the table and walked over to the window. The evening air carried the faint sound of kids playing down the block, just simple, honest laughter. Behind me, the apartment was quiet. It was safe and empty in the best possible way. No mind games, no one wanting something, just peace. They thought I couldn't live without them. But the truth is, I'd been suffocating under them for years. Every sacrifice I ever made for Brandon, every dollar, every hour of my life I poured into that house, that marriage, that family, it all became a weapon they used on me. And still standing here now, with nothing I used to cling to, I had never felt lighter. Let them get angry, let them scramble, let them blame me. I had nothing left to give, and that made me the freest woman in the world. I whispered it to the empty room like a prayer just for me. Quiet doesn't mean weak. And for the first time,